Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last educational session at this year's NWACUHO conference. We have Eric Hansing from San Diego State University and Kurt Hopla from Malin Architecture, and they will be presenting today on from Zoo to Zing, the transformation of Zura Hall. So please give them a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's great to see you and be up in the Northwest again. It's been a while since I've been here. I was at Florida State for several years, and at San Diego State for about 3. So our title is From Zoo to Zing, the transformation of Zura Hall. Our first heavy renovation at Zura Hall, or San Diego State, is really the university's history. So I'm excited to talk about that today. Our agenda is to do some brief introductions, talk about our vision for the project, talk about some of the outreach that we did, and then talk specifically about our goals of operational efficiency, enhancing community, academic integration, equity, and diversity. This is kind of a weird thing here, but and celebrating culture. So we'll just kind of go through our story at San Diego State. First, I'm Eric Hansing. I'm the director of housing administration at San Diego State. Started there in May of 2012. Previous to that, I was at Oregon State for 23 years as a professional, And again, Kurt Hopla with Malin Architects. I'm the principal in charge of the student housing work. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. It's been just incredibly rewarding to be partnering with you all. I want to give you a little context of San Diego State. So San Diego State is an institution that was founded in 1897 and is part of the 23 school institution campus for the California State University system, which is a consortium of all the state schools there. 34,000 students attend San Diego State for this last fall. And we're ranked number 14 in the U.S. News and World Report with up-and-coming schools. So something we're very proud of in terms of our trajectory. We've been focusing recently, like a lot of institutions, on high-achieving out-of-state international students. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we've had a full-time live-on requirement since fall of 2009 for the institution. This next fall, we project about 4,300 students to be living on campus, which is a significant growth in the last few years. So when I arrived, we were closer to 3,000, and now 4,300 in this next fall. At Malin Architects, we've had a very regional focus. An old firm starting back in 1938 with offices in Seattle and Portland. But now really partnering up and down the West Coast and into a broader reach in places like Louisiana and the Mountain States. So it's been great to start to promote and learn about student housing, student life in a broader context. So in terms of the vision, really San Diego State has been traditionally a commuter institution. Many people in town refer to it as a large community college. That idea of folks who come, take classes, and leave. In the last several years, really trying to transform San Diego State to become much more of a residential institution, understanding the benefits of that high-impact practice in the residential community, provide things that folks in this room don't need to hear too much to be convinced of the benefit and the value of in terms of engaging with communities, academic success, and other features. In 2012, before I arrived in January, the Director of Facility Services commissioned the NICES report, unfortunate name these days, but to go and look at the facilities condition analysis. And this was really a high-level analysis of all the facilities on campus, looking at the various systems, the age of those systems, and so forth. And although these books were interesting and helpful, they were a little hard to digest for those of us who were trying to use them as planning guides. So we worked on these, and we basically tried to digest these into a smaller summary document, and then also wanted to understand the user experience for our maintenance and facilities folks, as well as our residential education team. And so you can kind of see the systems descriptions over here. The red boxes indicate the priority for the res ed and our housing facilities folks, so SDSU folks. And then the black dots were the ISIS, so the experts who came in for a few days and did their analysis. And what was true for the entire lot of all our properties was that Zura Hall was in the greatest need. So there was uniform deferred maintenance issues in the building that desperately needed to be renovated. So when Zura was constructed, it was 1968. Most of our residential buildings at the time were what we call red brick residence halls. Several CSU institutions across the region had these red brick buildings, and basically 3-story buildings, no elevators, and they just used that same floor plan institution after institution, and so saved tons in architecture costs. So this building would have 3 towers, had a 5-story, 7-story, and 9-story components to it, and really started its life with this new idea of what the residential learning would be like. Apparently, there was a naming process at the time, and Harriet Morsfield, a 20-year-old junior history major freshman. I don't know what a junior history major freshman is, but basically, was the one who promoted a name to the faculty senate, and that was selected. And the idea was to really support and honor the Aztec culture and civilization. What we're finding now is that we don't have any evidence that Zura is actually Aztec name. It's more of a Mayan name, which we'll get into details. But through the years, some people know San Diego State as a party institution, and that's definitely a reputation that was pervasive in the early 2000s. I think we were in Playboy's whatever thing of party schools. The last time it was 2009. The proximity to Tijuana didn't help much. Folks kind of going back, and then there was some large DEA drug busts that were done in the late 90s, or sorry, 2000s. And so, but really that is not okay for an institution of higher learning. It's something that we're really trying to distance ourselves from in terms of the culture. But from a building standpoint, we had these balconies that were almost floor lounges. And because there was no kind of accountability for those, we often had launched furniture coming off of those balconies. And so Zura was aptly known as the Zura Zoo, was one of the nicknames that we had for the building. And then once we kind of decided that Zura was the building we wanted to look at, we still wanted to do a feasibility analysis. So we commissioned another architect team to do a feasibility analysis for all of our facilities, starting with Zura Hall, because we knew that was going to be the first one coming out of the gate. They really did an in-depth understanding of systems, where ISIS did a 3-day tour. These folks actually brought in consultants, looked at all the systems that we had in the building, and then also understood the construction costs and implications with code analysis and everything else to understand how we were going to do that. So we were on our way. And so some of the issues we had from an architectural standpoint were these open catwalks between various buildings. We have what were called houses. So they're 2-story pods. So you enter through one side and then go up through an internal stair and then go into these facilities. These were used, kind of identified as unique communities on each of those houses. The building and the towers did not see themselves or work as one facility. And then over the years, we had some architectural appendages added. So we had a telecommunications shed and a cabinetry and key shop that was added to the front of this, really making the front entrance very nondescript as a building.
So when we began working on the project, one of the first things we do is really focus on listening and moving through a series of user groups and focus sessions to find what we call those hidden insights and the goals and the priorities for the project. So these are some graphic recordings of a lot of our interactive sessions with Eric's team, with the larger San Diego State community, as well as focus groups of students, RAs, RHA. What came out of that effort were a series of comments, needs, small needs like fix the elevator, and important needs, more study space, and then some peculiar needs that will find its way into the presentation, with the wetsuits and the showers and the implications of plumbing. We looked at student groups. We thought about equity and diversity, thinking about the predominant culture in the San Diego area, including Comic-Con and some of the great natural amenities in the Pacific Ocean, and really formed these project goals: operational efficiency, enhance a sense of community, academic integration, equity, diversity, So as we moved forward, we started to attack the operational site first. In fact, one of the first conversations we had was about trash. This is Benita. She is really the house mother for most of your residence halls, but she was for your facilities lead. What we know about Benita is she, living in this facility and have offices here, she was not happy. She was not happy with the conditions, and so had lots of issues that we needed to address. So this is the experience of the trash, the process of taking your trash out from your room to dump it in this little trash area here. It goes down an antiquated chute. It goes through a convoluted series of catacombs to come back outside and then be sitting out in the public way. So very unpleasant experience for everyone, staff as well as students. So we really wanted to enhance that. We also had an issue of security. This is the location that red dot here of the reception of the sort of central checkpoint, with needing to have eyes on the front door of the elevator and the side door. But what about all these other sort of the tourist locations? Plenty of ways to get in and out of this building. So we have a security issue that we need to address as well. Here you can see what it looks like from the staff standpoint and how there are so many blank corners. So we needed to address that as well. And as we heard and we're listening to this peculiarity of the wetsuits, right? The surfing culture is alive and well. The students would go out and surf for a day and then have to hose off the salt and the sand in your plumbing systems and then hang these things out to dry. Pretty unsightly. Again, perpetuating this notion that it's just kind of a zoo of a catch-all. So we really needed to focus in on that. So ways that we thought about community was, again, this core. And I find these vintage facilities very interesting because it would appear to me that this was a gender segregated facility when they came online in the 60s because the elevator didn't stop at every floor. And there was a reason for that. So, but now with our current codes and our notions of equity and inclusion, this was just an ongoing problem for Eric and his team. So again, here's your experience of that common area. So we really wanted to transform that elevator core into really the place of community, the centralized location. Right there where we've got education and soft seating and places for these different houses to coexist. So you can see we've created a series of study rooms that are enclosed for focus study, little nooks here, working elevators, of course, this gallery, this small carrel, and then these living spaces. The intent behind this is that folks come out to take advantage of these amenities, and frankly, the stunning views on the upper levels. So it's just an excellent metric of what that space is looking like. And the renderings, the experience before and what we're proposing in terms of these carrels for interaction, both from an academic and social standpoint. The glass enclosures, so there's a sense of seeing and being seen, but being able to close that door and really focus on your work. We also thought about transforming these spaces at all areas of different sizes and scales into places for social encounters. So this is the new experience as you come in from the front door, greeted by a better located front desk with eyes on the front door and a welcoming experience when you come in. Moments at the mail packages where you can coexist and find ways to connect and interact. A fully loaded lounge which will transform into a meeting place. It's a place for game nights, for movie nights, for content, for conferences, and an activated community kitchen as well. With access from Maya and Olmeca, that's another aspect of the building community. There are 3 residence halls that will benefit from these spaces in the final product. And then, of course, turning that entire facade into a space that is more receiving, more gracious, filling in this area, new paint job, new windows, the typical things that you would expect from energy efficiency and function. Academics.
So from an academic standpoint, we are a bifurcated unit, so I report to the business financial affairs area, residential education reports through student affairs. I come from an integrated group, which at San Diego State had basically 6 entities that did the same work that one department did at Oregon State. So it was a little bit of a culture shock for me in some ways. But we also understand and remember that the value add proposition for our whole operation is this residential education program. So otherwise, we're active departments in food service. And so for our residential education, it's basically the components of it. So first is residential learning communities, which are basically living learning communities throughout our facilities. The residential education staff, which We also have academic mentors in many of the residential learning communities as well as support as tutors in the building. Faculty and residents we have in almost every building. We have in resident faculty member, and then we have these STAR academic resource centers in most of the facilities that we have, basically for tutoring, using computers, making copies, and so forth. And then there's an academic incentive program, which really is highlighting the students' achievement or progress in terms of the total academic experience. With regard to the residential learning communities, this is the list of RLCs that we have, as well as some of the theme and lifestyle communities. The residential learning communities are also associated with classes. So many of these students will take courses together. We actually assign them, and so we'll take these courses together, basically freshman orientation courses, and then they live obviously in the same community together. And then there also is this kind of construct of the Life 101 programming model, which is really looking at these 10 dimensions of citizenship and as Larry was saying this morning, the curriculum of the residence halls. We also understand that the need for metrics, and so San Diego State has been looking at these metrics of academic success and student success for quite a while. In 2005, started looking at the cohort, and the yellow represents the students who lived on campus, and then the red are the ones who lived off campus. So looking at academic probation rates, I said that wrong. Residents are the red ones, and the non-resident are the yellow. So the resident are much lower in terms of academic probation, much higher GPAs, much higher continuation rates from the freshman and sophomore year. And then we've been looking at graduation rates for the 4, 5, and 6-year graduation rates. And part of this data was used to justify the freshman to one requirement at San Diego State. And so when we look at that, we want to enhance that academic success that we've been able to build on and create these informal spaces as well as formal spaces for academic success. So these are little study notes that folks can have in informal group meetings. And then there's also some formal spaces of study lounge. And then spaces for our faculty and residents. This is our study room, and this is something that basically can be used as a place for studying on individual group projects, but all these tables are going to be movable so that you can actually teach one of those seminar courses in our residence hall. And so this is that space, kind of before and after, being able to have the dry erase for folks to put up their formulas, as well as plug in their laptops to have those discussions about their PowerPoint presentations. We have office spaces for our residence hall coordinator. This guy looks like he's coming out for academic reasons. And then other grad staff, and we'll have a little conference room there, study room for people to be able to use. And then the faculty and residents having some studio apartments so that they're able to engage the students in places they live. With regard to academic, I went too fast. So one of the things that obviously was an issue was this idea that the skip-stop elevator, you can't get there from here if you are someone who's wheelchair bound or temporarily disabled. Our athletic department actually refused to allow their students to live in our facilities because of that. That's the internal stairway that got you to that second floor, and then the ceilings were very low along the hallways, so especially our basketball players, folks literally had to dive while going down the hallway. So this really became an equity and access issue for people who are permanently disabled or folks who are temporarily disabled. And then looking at the specific areas, I'll let her talk about this.
Right, so when we came to this place, we had a series of, I think, double units just kind of marching down. And we not only needed to keep our eye on the ball relative to a number of beds in this facility, but the notion that we needed them to be tripleable. Okay, these are things that you're all dealing with on your own campus. And so Eric needed to be able to turn on the jets and take what is a 650 bed facility and take it up to over 800 to deal with fluctuating enrollment. So on top of that, we wanted to create a more diverse palette of units. So we've got singles up to quads in each house, and the commensurate number of accessible units where we tested the furniture layouts exhaustively in our Revit model, and then obviously did a full mock-up in the rooms because we had an existing condition to verify that in fact these units were going to be providing students with choice, a variety of experiences, but in the end, this is kind of that experience that everyone should have. Bright, lively, bathed in light, personalized space that will really suit their needs long term.
We also we're finding that the emerging understanding of the gender variant student in the gender dichotomy, or moving from a gender dichotomy to a gender continuum, was something that really needed to be addressed at San Diego State. We also had more students coming with gastrological issues, colostomy bags, other things that required some personal hygiene, privacy. And then some of our conservative Muslim students were also coming with other ritual hygienic needs that really required some additional privacy in our facilities. And so we originally were trying to make our kind of universal design concept where all of our bathrooms kind of worked in this way. We just didn't have the space to really do everything we wanted to do there. So we created these unique little unisex ADA restrooms on every wing, on every floor. And so it provides that ability to have privacy, and we don't have to address some of the same issues that we have on the rest of our campus, where we have buildings that are gender specific in terms of those restrooms and amenities. One of the other pieces that was really important to us was this idea of the San Diego lifestyle. And when we had polled students and asked them kind of why did you come to San Diego State, if they're an athlete, they talked about how great their coach was. If they were a student, how great that academic program was. But we said, yeah, but really, many times students use San Diego as a huge draw. And kind of at the risk of commoditizing, as Larry was talking about earlier today, this idea, we also understand that it is a both and type of proposition for students. When they're making these types of investments, they're making both emotional and logical decisions about where they're going. We wanted to basically take advantage of the idea that we're in San Diego, we have something unique to share in this community. So we had been working for several years on this idea of trying to activate the outdoors and take advantage of that, but frankly not in a very, I think, progressive way. And so we had these little spaces outside that are very lovely, but often don't have too many students around or in them. And so in this project, we wanted to really take advantage of the outdoors and make sure that we were paying as much attention outdoors as we were indoors. So we were looking at a planting palette that was going to be something we could continue the sustainability efforts and the low water availability in Southern California, but also was attractive. And then we also wanted to have these spaces on the outdoors that allow for socialization and study. One of the quotes that we kept kind of referring back to in our planning group was my supervisor who would say, people come to San Diego because of the sun, and when they get to the sun, they create a shade. And so really trying to make these spaces usable with shade structures and tree canopies and other things that allow them to make it a usable space. This was another issue. This was on the shortest tower, so the 3 towers, 5, 7, and 9 stories tall. So on top of the 5th story or 6th story was this what we called a attractive nuisance. So this was something that was created for folks, actually wasn't created for folks, it was basically just a group. But students saw it as an opportunity to come and, again, sometimes launch furniture off the side. And obviously clearly not designed for folks to be spending a lot of time and energy, but it was this place that was just on the other side of where they get off an elevator. And literally you can, on a clear day, see the bay and glimpses of the ocean. And so it had this wonderful possibility and potential, but we were basically saying we can't go there because of behavior of the students in the past. So we wanted to work on trying to find a way to transform that, and really understand the operational issues and the challenges and find a way to overcome them, as well as enhance and take advantage of this asset for the building. So this was kind of one of those big deals where we were looking at the BE list and value engineering and saying, what do we need to cut? This was one that we saw as sacred, and we really wanted to try to keep the projects at all costs. Not at all costs, but a significantly high priority.
So this project just had enough story. It was just so cool to begin with. When I get down there and I get on the ground and I see these palm trees, you can just kind of breathe, right? Especially for those of us up in the Pacific Northwest or up in the provinces. You feel like you're on vacation in a way. And then this project was great to transform, to sort of bridge these chasms and drive community into the spaces and these roof decks. How often you stuff going for it. And then there was this other element that just kind of wrapped a beautiful bow around it, and it was this whole surf culture. You remember those wetsuits hanging on the building, and one of my first encounters with some of the surfers, the dudes, they were waiting to get picked up in the pickup to go down to the Pacific and surf, and they had their boards and their bag of wetsuits, and we were just having an open conversation because they lived there. What do you want to see change about Zura Hall? And I just kind of queried them about, well, what do you do with this? And that's when we learned about the salt and sand and the plumbing. And it's okay, it dawned on us, well, like a bike repair station, or what we have in a lot of our projects, why should we have a surf station? Why shouldn't we provide a place for them to rent and manage their equipment outside, not bring them upstairs and damage your drywall and create problems with the plumbing again? And they seemed like that was a good idea. Furthermore, we were able to bring hot water out, which is easy to do in this climate, so that we had a care station for service and therapy. So now we're getting kind of a double duty on an investment that Erica was going to need to make in this. So then we took a next step and said, all right, well, let's try and design a place to store safely and securely the wetsuits and the surfboards. So now I had to start learning about longboards and shortboards and how big they are and the styles and the layers of onions continue to peel back. So we've created this community space outside for repair and storage. And then we started to really look at the beauty of these surfboards. They're pieces of art, and they became our internal muse. Thinking about that bright, fresh color palette as a wayfinding, as a way to create an interior expression. And then it kind of went a step further to learning about the shapers and that they are true artists, and why not start to showcase them as art in each community, and maybe showcase the different styles of boards and the different colors. And so it started to inform basically a backlit surfboard at the end of this corridor as that piece of art at the end of your home. And we started to get into mounting and understand how they mount these in the museum. And from there, we started to learn that in a sustainable project in an environmentally aware area, the surfing industry was terribly dirty and contaminated production to create these boards where people go out and experience nature. So it was kind of ironic that these boards had all kinds of toxins in them. Frankly, it became a fire marshal, a fire rating issue to make sure that they weren't a flammable issue in the hall. But then we started to learn that there's a sustainable surf tourism out there. And we learned that on campus was the Center for Surf Research. So now we have an on-campus partner to start to educate us even further about surfing and sustainable surf production. And then we met Carl Kish here, who I consider to be the surf whisperer. This guy is a graduate of San Diego State. He's got his own sustainable surf tourism. He goes around to different countries and helps set up surfing resorts and things. It's a tough life. But he took us to Domingue, which had a surf craft exhibit, and we found out even further the physics around it and the great culture and history dating back to the Polynesians, and then the beauty and the variety that exists in all of these boards. So you can imagine just getting swept up, no pun intended, in trying to promote this culture in this residence hall. And from there, we are going to be highlighting the different shapers, these guys that are creating boards that are sustainably driven. They're using alternative products. They're using more natural resins. They're working with wood fabric. They're working with hemp. These boards are using an epoxy resin. They're just gorgeous. These are hemp wrapped boards from a specific wood. This is agave wood, which is a rapidly growing product. These boards are upcycled. Mark Sanchez. So he's going around in dumpsters and finding recycled foam and using those to create his centers and then wrapping in a more sustainable process. So you can see the kind of the methodology that he's using. Just no end to this subculture of sustainable surfing. And you can see that some of the guys in production. And then we were introduced to Andy Davis, who is an artist who's doing murals in San Diego. He's really kind of transformed the culture into his artwork. We commissioned him to come to the project and do a mural at the entry. So that was interesting to get to meet him and his wife. And if you've been on a construction site, what's wrong with this picture? It kind of blew me away that we got out of the ground trailer and we're walking around the site. He had this safety jacket on upside down, and these guys just did not know what to think of this little moment that was happening. It was really quite hilarious. And then to round this out, now we've got ourselves a living learning community focusing on sustainable tourism. The San Diego State is picking this up as a PR, as a recruitment tool. So I just love it. I love how this integration kind of had this logical end, but it really took a functional idea. Let's solve for wetsuits and turn it into a real aesthetic as well as emotional driver for the community.
So that was very exciting for that to kind of come together, and that is the nice bow, and we'll kind of see how that goes. We'll launch that learning community this next fall. We have a webcam you can check out. It's a live cam and progress of the building. We're supposed to complete construction in July 8th, and of course, with most projects, we always slip in terms of our schedule, and then we recover and we slip and recover. So I'm crossing my fingers still in terms of the project being done on time. But in terms of next step, one of the things that we identified is that, especially with sustainable buildings, sometimes the students are not educated on what it is that is different or unique about this building. So we're going for a LEED Silver certification. But in our apartments and other places, we often have students not understanding our systems, don't understand our mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, our waste and recycling management goals and the rationale and reasons for those. So we're basically creating this user commissioning or this orientation and taking what has been pretty much a policy guide and turning it into somewhat of an owner's manual for an institution. And so we'll have little snippets of things that we share with students to train them on how to use these systems. And we don't expect them to read it. We understand the principle of too long didn't read. And so we're going to use this as more of a reference guide. And then find orientation videos with those things that are most important for us to get across, as well as the typical RA meetings and then other asynchronous methods to transfer that information. We're also looking at kind of establishing metrics for success and the overall holistic view of the building. So we did a pre-community survey with residents before we closed the building, kind of trying to understand what was special about it, what sense of community and identity that folks have. What were some of the nicknames they had heard? Of course, the Zura was one that was pervasive. But then looking back at those academic success metrics that we talked about earlier, the retention, that community engagement, we'll do a post-survey and kind of focus groups to kind of understand lived experience for students. Hopefully, we'll see some damage reduction compared to the pre versus post, and then we'll be tracking the utility consumption to make sure that what we thought we bought in terms of this LEED certification we actually get. So ultimately, Benita is a fantastic person and works very, very hard in our facilities and maintenance. But our goal always is to kind of keep her in this happy mode as much as possible. And so that is our goal in this place. Is Benita on the site. And that is our
Virginia would be mortified if she saw those. She was up in lights and Zing's web stream, but she's fantastic.
Any questions?
Eric, a lot of renovation into this building. What was your tipping point between deciding renovate the building or remove it and build new?
So the question was, what was the tipping point between renovation and building new? This building, similar to a previous project that Kurt and OSU worked on, was we had a fantastic bones for this building. So the cost of tearing this down and then reconstructing something, we would never have gotten the quality of the kind of the concrete and everything else that was part of this building for the same price point. And then the new construction in Southern California is also very, very expensive. This is by far the most expensive project I've ever been associated with it. But we also are building some new buildings, which are twice as expensive and don't have the same level of construction. So it's fairly easy ROI to kind of say, should we renovate this or should we tear it down and build over? And decided to do that. Yep. Other questions?
Eric, do you condition the rooms? Do they have air conditioning?
The question is, do we condition the rooms at SDSU? We do. And so that was part of the thing we had to deal with the painful units. And we really hope to have 4 pipe system, but we have the traditional two-pipe system, which is either on or off for those who understand all the mechanical systems. And but we could and want to do it more efficiently than we've done it in the past. We've done it in a fairly obtuse way that's not very refined, and we want to do something that's a little more precise.
And a couple of our remote folks joined a few moments late, so I'm hoping you can recap how many students are in that building and what were some of the total costs?
So some of the questions were how many students are in the building and what are the total costs. We'll have about 623 beds, so here is most of our residential education within staff in there, and that's going to flex depending on the building. We will, the total renovation is about $53 million, and that's the construction cost is about $36 million, and then our soft costs, which again is the highest I've ever spent. And I'm still trying to figure out why it's so expensive in Southern California, but it is. The question is, were there any surprises in the process? There's always surprises whenever you renovate a building, and we're looking at this. Our biggest surprise was from the feasibility study to the actual design and construction, how different our state fire marshal understood and interpreted the codes. One of the things that was a key issue was on the ninth story building, it was over 75 feet, which would have required us to look at it as a high-rise facility. And we always agreed that we would probably just mothball that or figure out something else, and the fire marshal was saying, no, you can't do that. You need to tear it off, or you need to bring all the things up to the high-rise code, which was going to be cost prohibitive for us. So we actually lost a lot of traction, a lot of time kind of in this negotiation where the code was being interpreted by those who interpret code in a different way than the code read it.
Yeah, to follow up on that, the initial feasibility study suggested that it wouldn't need to comply with high-rise requirements existing, even though it was 9 stories. That sort of was overturned during design, and the ridiculousness of the process, we had to do an alternate means and methods to show that we were going to fill it full of insulation, block up the windows, bolt up the door. We weren't going to repair the elevator that far. I mean, I know some of the answer why it's more expensive in California, frankly, and there's some significant processes that you have to go through. But unfortunately, you lost, I don't know how many beds, because we had to mothball that night floor. So there it sits up there. We don't have to saw cut and tear it off, but it's empty. It's just revenue, just, I don't know, keeps you up at night, but it's frustrating.
I was really interested to hear about Wetsuit Foundation. Is that still part of the project? So, what kind of percentage capacity for Wetsuit?
So the question was, is the surfboard storage still part of the project, and what's our accommodation? I believe we ended up with 24 lockers, and that's about what we thought is actually more than what we thought we would need. It'll be interesting now that we have a residential learning community in there, and what we found is that most of the folks who are interested in surfing are not from San Diego, and especially as freshmen, or the folks who have been doing it for a long time, winners. San Diego State has a consortium with UC San Diego and some other places with the Mission Bay Aquatic Center, which actually teaches surfing, is part of the program. And so we're hoping that we can just continue this collaboration so that not everybody has to have a board, and we can rent them and we can use them as needed as we go along.
A little anecdote on that too. The surf culture, you go shopping for surfboards, you're going to go down to the beach and there's a little hut, and you go in and talk to probably one of the world-renowned shapers. And he's like, sure, come back in a month, I'll have it done. So we had to source 48 of them. And, that kind of blew their minds. And so we had to talk to a variety of folks, and they're all doing about a dozen of these. And, it's probably a good commission for them if they don't live in a world of product delivery, right? These things are pieces of art. We almost had to burn one of them to prove to the fire marshal that it was going to meet the flame class. And when I talked with Carl Kish about it, I said, we might have to burn one of these. Don't tell them that. Because it's a piece of art for them, and we're just going to torch it. But we didn't have to. That's where the fire marshal came through, bought off on the more sustainable resins, and that this wasn't going to be a flame, fire issue in the corridor. So that was a win.
So one of our remote colleagues is out at UHU. So you can imagine the surf element feeling pretty relevant right now. So she's wondering about whether students are making, if you feel like students are going to be making better decisions about storage of wetsuits and things like that, details
Yeah,
about that.
so questions about more details about kind of what impact do you think this is going to have on behavior and other things with regard to surfboards and storage and so forth. We certainly don't know all that because it's the future. We aren't quite sure. We haven't worked out in terms of are we going to charge students for using the storage. What we found with our bike storage on campus is that we did not want to charge. We want to incentivize folks to put bikes in secure locations instead of locking them to palm trees and other things. So we'll probably bring that to these surfboard lockers as well to really find a way to utilize them. And our hope is that by creating a space for them to do what really is what we want them to do, they won't have to do what they want to do, which is to throw things up. And there aren't going to be the places to dry your surf gear under the rails because it's really gone. There's now enclosed community spaces. And so again, we're hoping that creating a secure location that actually probably better for the boards, have less possibility for damaging, cleaning them up, that actually would be a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, just to add on to that, anecdotally, the folks that we talked to considered it quite a hassle to lug the, imagine the wet gear and, well, I don't know about shortboards now, I guess. So, but still, take that in the elevator and manage your corridor. So it's a convenience as well. And if they've got a place where they can actually lay out the board and re-wax it in a secure, it's kind of like your bike. Now, I know there's $5,000 bikes that we all know that they're going to take it upstairs no matter what you say, but and these are precious tools or pieces of equipment, but we're hoping that this really becomes a place of a hangout, another exterior environment where culture and community can be shared. So we'll be looking at those metrics as well.
So you talked a lot about wanting to change the behavior of students that it was a while encourage actually coming to such a hall on our campus. But I'm wondering if you're like assessing doing things that assessing about
The question is, are we assessing behavior kind of pre-post and so forth? And that's certainly something that San Diego State, one of the things that I'm very excited about and aligned with is this idea of making database decisions. So looking at conduct at the individual floor, at the building level, is something that's already done. And so we're going to have a rich data set to look at in that pre-post conversation. And when things stop working, then we change behavior and practices to understand. We'll kind of see what theory is, what best practices are, see if we can apply them at San Diego State. But that's certainly something that's going to be looked at. Is the data going to be accessible? We don't generally promote our conduct stats too much. We'll probably share a summary of it's better or it's not. Actually, we probably won't tell you that it's not. We'll probably tell you it's good news. And work just as other folks would internally to address it and try to figure out what's going on in this situation. So, good question.
Yes, I may have missed it. Were you able to improve the height of
The question, I did respond to that, yes. The question of were we able to improve the height of the corridor for this one? We did. We aren't as high as I'd like to be. We still have to bring it down for all the chases for the mechanical systems and so forth, but it's higher than it was before, and will be something I think 6 inches higher, 6 or 8 inches higher than it was previously. And so we're like, any improvement is going to be an improvement.
one other question with regard to exterior rendering, go to L-shaped element, and also include the support was that existing or
So the question was in our final rendering. Let's see if we can find that.
and does that kind of reinforce a pedestrian access?
I'll start talking about it before. Actually, there is a security level to go to that front door, and that portal was really about making a more a sense of entry. Because right now you kind of go around the corner between 2 concrete dog houses and go to the front door. So that wasn't very celebratory. It wasn't emotive of a place you want to return to at the end of the day. But there is a door that is sort of the security point. What's interesting about the communities here, I mentioned Maya and Olmeca, and we don't have a site plan, but these 3 residence halls, well, Snoshka as well. Snoshka, Zura, Maya, and Olmeca, all all share a secure interior environment. And there's a gate, and there are reasons around that because of the neighborhood issues. But so all 4 of those residents can co-mingle within their own ground floor active spaces. So if I live in Omeka, I'll be able to come over without security levels into the ground level at Zura to partake in a student evening session or some educational content, or it's game night or whatever. But there is a front door that is a secure point. There's no portal.
Yeah. So so we have the levels of swipe card and new proxy cards in the future. We have a 24-hour desk operation that folks have to show ID when they come into the building, and other security zones. But as Kurt said, we had this kind of level of security for other facilities, and we had the challenge of walking down the building so tight that we were really inhibiting the community happening outside, especially in that back area. So we negotiated this with our residential education folks in terms of that security zone aspect, and said we basically want to create a gated community that once you're in, you go through these 2 or 3 levels of security, you can go anywhere within that community.
And it seems like you covered that hole and that two-story houses, so that that was there, or did that hole already still?
Yeah. So where we had the stairway in the houses, basically we took that out and infilled that and put in those bathrooms. That's exactly right. Really reconfigured. We thought that initially we'd be able to save some of the rooms, and at the end decided, it's better to kind of go out everything and start over. And the fact that we had those lounges in the central core area, the lounges in each house were no longer necessary. You got it. So it's 3 wings and 1 floor versus 3 houses that don't really have to interact at all.
Yeah, that was an interesting aspect of the existing building, and frankly, there was some strong sense of community in the zoo, despite its moniker. But that convening stair was only conducive to fully mobile students, and there was this chasm that we referred to. So I think we traded for better benefits by closing that in, creating more equity in terms of washrooms, and then a common place for the kind of layers of community and social interaction that we wanted. Correct. Yeah, we didn't mention the balcony. So some of the balconies were enclosed for RA apartments so that they have a little bit nicer view, a little bit nicer space, and then the other larger balconies were enclosed as part of the quad, very large quarters.
But in both cases, they're now dedicated to a assigned student group. So anything coming off of them, we know who we're going to go after. It's not in a lounge that anyone can do at any time. And so we believe that it's going to help us a little bit in terms of that behavior aspect.
So what technology features or infrastructure is being used in this renovation?
What are some of the technology aspects that are going to be infused? Part of it is going to be the AV aspects that we're going to have. So we'll have a lot more displays for people to plug in, whether it's their laptops or their gaming systems or what have you. We're also going to be doing a lot more metering of all of our utilities. So our hope is to have a display in the first floor lobby of the energy use of the building, so we'll be able to understand water and electricity, gas, and so forth, use of the building, so students can modify the behavior based on real-time data versus some report that they get down the road. We have some fun things like an 80-inch television that's going to be in there for folks to watch the Super Bowl party and hopefully watch the Seahawks win next year, and win the ball. And then certainly from that academic support, there's a lot of things that will probably still instill that area to be determined.
Did you say Seahawks?
I did say Seahawks. I love the Chargers, but I grew up in Seattle when they started in '76, so always close to the heart. This is the way to say Seahawks, not Chargers. No, you're not. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time and attention. Our contact information will be in the presentation that you'll be able to get access to. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
On behalf of NWACUHO, I'd like to present Eric and Kurt with certificates for their time and a donation has been made in your names to the Center for Open Safety here in Salem. So thank you very much. Can we thank Kurt and Eric again for their wonderful presentation? And as a reminder, I handed out evaluations. I think I have one more blank one if you need it. I have an inlet